What if I told you that living in your home, the one you're in right now watching this video, just breathing the air could be taking years off of your life? Almost 90% of lung cancer deaths are caused by smoking. But exposure to something that you likely have in your home, something you're breathing right now, is the second leading cause of lung cancer. Depending on the levels in your home right now, could be the equivalent of smoking anywhere between 4 to 12 cigarettes per day. Now, I want to know if me and my family are exposed. So for just $50, this little test is going to let me know what's going on in my own home. And that $50 in this little test just might save my life. This problem affects homeowners and renters alike, and even more scary, it affects children the worst. If you want to learn all about what this problem is, how to know if you're exposed, and what to do if you are, then today's video is exactly what you need. Cue the music and let's get into it. My name is Darren, team leader with the German group of McDonald Realty and a realtor in Surrey BC. If this is your first time watching this channel is 100% dedicated to everything about Surrey BC, White Rock BC, and everything going on in the crazy world of British Columbia real estate. If you want to be kept up to date on everything going on with the market and these areas, consider subscribing to our channel. People just like you are booking online meetups with me and my team every single day who are looking to relocate to our area. And the good news is we're here to help you too. Whether you're thinking of moving in the next 9 days, 90 days, or even 9 months from now, use the online link to book a time to speak with me and my team, and we'll help make sure that your relocation to the areas we serve is the absolute best that it could ever be. So let's dive into what this is and where it came from and why I'm doing today's video. I just watched a webinar presented by the British Columbia Financial Services Authority, the body of government that's responsible for oversight of real estate in protection of the public. I never knew what radon was. It was something that has kind of come onto the scene in the last couple of years in the real estate space, and something that we have started asking many of our home sellers whether they know if radon is something that they're aware of that's even inside their home when they go to sell it. In fact, traces of this gas called radon in someone's home could be something considered a material latent defect that is critical that it gets disclosed to a buyer prior to them making an offer on the home that they purchase. Learning about this seems to be really important because it's not something that a lot of people are talking about. So the British Columbia Financial Services Authority, or BCFSA, did a webinar on radon gas. Because at the German group, we deeply care about the people we serve and the future people we serve. We sat in on this webinar to learn all about it, to make sure that anybody like you who is either buying or selling a home is better protected in terms of your health. Now, I was absolutely blown away by what was in this webinar, and I gotta be honest with you, it was a little bit scary. I'm gonna link the full webinar in the description of this video, but I'm gonna sum up what was mentioned in that webinar in today's video, so you can learn all about radon gas and what you need to know. The presentation was hosted by a gentleman named Dr. Dustin Pearson. He works at the Carbonneau Cancer Institute, is one of the senior scientists in the Godarzi Laboratory, and is the scientific operations manager for the EVICT Radon National Study. His work focuses on the biology of alpha particle exposure, as well as the study of the real-time indoor air dynamics of radon within the residential built environment. Now, that's a mouthful, but here's the thing that I want you to know. Radon is not a new thing. This is something that has just more recently come to light. We are really just starting to understand radon better. So let's explain the problem a little bit. Dr. Pearson goes on to say in this webinar that globally, depending on where you live, there is different types of cancers that are prevalent.
And one of the things I think we need to appreciate is that globally, cancers are different based on where you live. If you live in North America, we have a large prevalence of lung cancer. If you're in Europe, colon cancer. Within Africa, it's pancreatic and liver cancer. In South America, it's breast cancer. And in Asia, it's ovarian, uterine cancers.
Now listen to what he has to say about a 2019 study by the Canadian Cancer Society.
The fact that we live in Canada, I think we're probably more interested in what's going on at home. And what we have here is statistics from the 2019 Canadian Cancer Society, what has looked at the number of cases of cancer that have occurred. And what you can see here is that lung cancer cases are quite high, but more importantly, the number of deaths that are occurring from lung cancers by far and away overshadow all other cancers. And so what this is really saying is that there's a crisis that is happening within Canada, and it has to do with lung cancer, and we need to do something about it.
Lung cancer is high in Canada, but even more so, lung cancer deaths trump every other type of cancer. So naturally, you might be asking yourself, well, why is this? There's not nearly as many people smoking anymore as there used to be in, let's say, the 80s or 90s. Dr. Pearson goes on to explain that cancers arrive through a variety of mechanisms and things we are exposed to throughout our lives. When it comes to lung cancer, some of these can contribute to lung cancer. Things like smoking, alcohol, molds, exposure to heavy metals, UV sunlight, hydrocarbons, PCBs, asbestos, and something called radon gas are all things that can give us cancer, but some of these help contribute to lung cancer specifically. So here's a stat that Dr. Pearson shared that I thought was incredibly interesting. Of all of the lung cancer cases diagnosed in Canada, over 5,500 of those are diagnosed in someone who has never smoked. This gas called radon is something that is incredibly significant and something that all homeowners or renters or anybody living in a house needs to be testing for. So what exactly is radon? Well, radon is a radioactive gas that comes from the breakdown of uranium in soil and rock. It is invisible, odorless, and tasteless. When radon is released from the ground into the outdoor air, it is diluted and not a concern. However, in enclosed spaces like homes, it can accumulate to high levels and become a risk to the health of you and your family. Radon is radioactive, which sounds scary enough. And when it emits radioactivity, which is known as something called an alpha particle, this alpha particle moves at half of the speed of light and has enough energy and momentum to physically dent bulletproof plastic. Now that's a lot of energy, and can you imagine that going into your lungs? And we're not only just being exposed to the radiation that comes from radon, but as well as the toxic LED byproducts. So having an understanding of this, we now know that radon causes lung cancer. And overwhelmingly, our largest natural source of radiation exposure actually comes from radon. So how are you being exposed to radon, you ask? Well, just by living and breathing the air in your house.
We live in these boxes that are built on top of the ground that can actually concentrate radon to unnaturally high levels. If you were just living outside, radon actually dilutes down to essentially nothing, and it's not a problem. But as our homes create a pressure differential, they can draw in radon, concentrating at naturally high levels and exposing us to this type of radiation. And we can see this in real time. What you see here on the right is a video a mitigator has taken. They've put a tracer gas into the soil around the house. And as that home is naturally breathing, it's pulling in that tracer gas through cracks in the foundation, really exemplifying that, yes, indeed, your house, your property pulls in soil gases.
Now, the average length of a stay in a Canadian home, whether you're a renter or somebody that owns the property, is usually somewhere between 5 or 10 years until you move on to the next property. But what happens if you're exposed to radon for only 5 to 10 years? Or what if you are exposed to radon now and you end up moving to another home that is also exposed to radon? What about over the course of your lifetime if every single place you live is exposed to this dangerous gas? Hey, real quick, I don't run any ads on my videos, intentionally anyways, and put in about 8 hours every week trying to bring you the very best content there is while keeping it somewhat entertaining too. The only ask that I have is that you help me spread the word on my videos so we can help more home buyers and sellers be wildly successful with real estate. Get it right the first time and dodge all the ways that people typically get burned when they buy or sell a home. Now, the only way that we can do that is if you give this video just a simple like to help other people like you find the content. That's the only thing we ask you to do. Don't even worry about subscribing. It will take you about 3 seconds and it would mean the absolute world to me, but more importantly, it may change the world for someone else. Thanks for clicking the like button and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Well, there's a pretty good chance that you have been exposed to it and you are currently being exposed to it. In fact, 16% of the homes tested in British Columbia have higher amounts of radon, which considered by Health Canada are detriments to your health. That's 1 out of 6 homes that have been tested.
In BC, we're seeing still 16%. That's about 1 in 6 homes. So this isn't a minor amount of homes that are above that Health Canada limit. So it is something that we need to be keeping in mind. And as we compare Canada globally, Canada has a huge amount of radon exposure. If we look at the different regions on a global scale, Poland is the largest radon exposed nation per capita, but Prairie Canada comes in second, and then North Canada in third, and Atlantic Canada in fourth. So this is a significant issue across our nation, and it is something that we need to address.
Yikes, that's scary. Dr. Pearson also goes on to say that the style of your home, the updates of your home, and the age of your home all can play a significant role in your exposure to this gas. Also, other factors such as our genetics predispose us to our sensitivity for lung cancer. Here's what Dr. Pearson has to say.
Understanding our genetics, we have to understand that there is a higher potential for radon based on where we live. Now, this is a radon potential map for North America. And in Calgary, Alberta, we live in a very high radon potential zone, with BC having a mixture between guarded and high. But what's important to note, and what I think our data shows quite clearly, is that although you might live in a guarded area, for example, that doesn't preclude your home from having high radon, because it is how your home is built that actually can affect your radon concentration.
This exposure can be mitigated based on how homes are built, which is great for new construction. But here's the problem. What if you live in an older home? Well, naturally, you would want to know if you're exposed to the gas and also what you could do to mitigate your exposure to radon. I don't want to keep you up tonight fearing what might be happening in your home. Let's talk about some solutions to this problem. What can you do today to check if your home is safe and to mitigate the problem if you find out that your home indeed does have high concentrations of radon gas? There is a solution to this problem, and you just have to get your home tested. We're not going to get into how this test works specifically, but the good news is it's cheap and it is reliable, and you can get really good data from it. In fact, jumping online, you can find a cheap radon test at Home Depot for under $20, or you can do exactly what I did and pick up a test from the Evict Radon National Study for about $60. All Evict Radon National Study tests include rigorous quality controls so that you and their research team have high confidence that all radon readings are reliable, precise, and accurate. It includes free shipping, free return shipping, and depending on the time of year you test, your results can be back anywhere between 3 to 6 months from when you begin testing. So you get your tests back, and what do you do with them? What happens after you get your results from this study? If your levels are low, well, the good news is you don't have to worry about it. You can retest in about 5 or 10 years, but what if your levels are high? Well, there's a certified way of lowering those levels today.
So I'm sure this is all probably a little overwhelming, but don't worry, it's all going to be okay, because there is a solution to this problem. First of all, and like I've mentioned, you just need to get your house tested. The test is cheap, it's reliable, and you get good data from it. If your levels are low, don't worry about it. Retest in about 5 to 10 years. If your levels are high, there is a certified way of lowering that. That's through a process called sub-slab depressurization, or mitigation. Essentially what they do here is they drill a 5-inch hole in your foundation floor, and then they determine how hard your home sucks on the ground and put a fan in to offset that pressure differential. That fan then exhausts the outside and basically provides a path of least resistance for that radon to go out. The average cost of a mitigation in Canada is between $2,500 and $3,500. So it's a cost of a small renovation, but in terms of the cost of getting lung cancer, I think this pales in comparison. And mitigation works. Here in red, what you see is homes pre-mitigation, with some homes over 3,000 becquerels per meter cubed. After mitigation, they drop well below that 100 becquerel per meter cube limit. So it really suggests that this is an effective solution to the problem of radon. And we can see this in real time. So using an electronic radon detector, this particular participant in our study decided to get their house mitigated. And as soon as they turned on the switch, that radon flatlined.
So what's exactly in this kit? Well, let's open it together.
All right, so let's see what is in here. What we need to do it. So, just this little test kit. It's, you know, it's about the size of almost like a little pack of mints or something like that. Not very big. There is some instructions here, as well as a password to, I guess, register for the study. There is my return mail, and looks like instructions. So based on the time of year that I'm going to be doing this, which we're going into spring, into summer, that sort of thing, looks like it's going to be closer to a 6-month test, whereas if you do it in the winter, where your windows are closed and the furnace is on and blowing air, you're not going outside quite as much, it's closer to about 3 months. So we will get this set up and start testing right away. Anyways, that's what it looks like. I want you to know that we have no affiliation with the Evict Radon National Study, but if you're watching this, the reason I'm filming this is because I want you to be safe. I want your family to be safe in your own home. This may also prove to be a larger issue over the course of time, where home buyers looking at homes that they want to purchase, possibly the home that you're living in right now, demand that they want to know the levels of radon gas that exist in the property that you are currently living. Most importantly, we're talking about not only your health, but also the health of future home buyers. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set my test up this week. I'm going to make sure that it is ready to go, and I am going to film a follow-up video in 6 months letting you know how my own home in South Surrey, British Columbia performs in terms of radon exposure. And after that, I'm gonna follow up on this YouTube channel with an updated video so you can follow along and know what we do if we need to mitigate our home to protect our family against radon gas exposure. In fact, I'm even gonna reach out to Dr. Dustin Pearson to see if he'd like to join us on our video in 6 months explaining the test results that come from my own home. So now you've learned all about radon gas and what to do to mitigate it if you need to, and how to get the test to make sure your family is safe. Be sure to comment below and let me know what your thoughts are on radon gas, as well as if you intend to test your own home. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing you on the next video. Cheers.